German conquest transformed Europe's industrial landscape between 1939 and 1945. Occupied nations found their factories, skilled workers, and engineering expertise conscripted into the Nazi war machine. Aircraft production facilities across France, Czechoslovakia, Poland, the Netherlands, and other conquered territories continued operations under German control, manufacturing fighters, bombers, trainers, and transports. This industrial exploitation provided Germany with additional production capacity while denying those resources to Allied forces. The aircraft built in occupied Europe represent a largely overlooked dimension of the conflict's industrial warfare.
Czech-built aircraft. The Avia B-534 remained in production after Czechoslovakia's occupation in March 1939. This biplane fighter had entered Czech service in the mid-30s and represented obsolete technology by war's outbreak. Germany permitted continued production for export to Axis allies and puppet states. Slovakia operated B-534s during its invasion of Poland and early Eastern Front operations. Bulgaria received examples for air defense duties. The aircraft's outdated design limited effectiveness against modern opposition, but shortage of alternatives kept it operational. Several hundred served throughout the war in secondary roles. The Aero A304 bomber continued production under German control. This twin-engine aircraft served Czech forces before occupation and entered limited production for Germany. The A304's modest performance and small bomb load made it unsuitable for frontline operations. Germany employed it primarily for training and transport duties. Some were converted for glider towing or communication roles. Czech factories produced small numbers throughout the early war years before switching to more valuable German designs. The aircraft represented Czech aeronautical capability trapped under occupation. The Avia B-71 emerged as a Czech license-built version of the Soviet Tupolev SB bomber. Czechoslovakia had acquired production rights before the war, and several were completed under German occupation. These twin-engine bombers featured modern design, but Germany showed little interest in producing Soviet-designed aircraft. Most B-71s were scrapped or used for training purposes. The type represented failed Czech rearmament efforts overtaken by German conquest. Production ceased shortly after occupation as German authorities prioritized their own designs. Czech factories transitioned to building German aircraft types under occupation. Avia produced Bf-109 fighters, while other facilities manufactured components for various Luftwaffe aircraft. The Aero factory built Siebel C-204 transports and trainers under license. These facilities contributed significantly to German war production, providing thousands of aircraft and components. Czech workers labored under occupation, producing weapons used against Allied forces. Sabotage efforts occasionally disrupted production, though German oversight made such resistance dangerous. Czech industrial capacity remained productive until late-war Allied bombing and Soviet advance.
French-built aircraft. The Block MB-152 fighter remained in production during France's brief combat period in 1940. Following French surrender, Germany captured substantial numbers and production facilities. Limited numbers were completed post-Armistice for Vichy French forces defending colonial territories. The MB-152 featured modern design with adequate performance, but insufficient numbers prevented significant impact during the Battle of France. Germany showed little interest in continuing production for their own use. Most captured aircraft were scrapped or converted to training roles. Romania received some examples, operating them briefly on the Eastern Front. The WWII D-520 represented France's most modern fighter at Armistice. Production continued under German supervision for Vichy France and Axis allies. The D-520 featured excellent handling and respectable performance approaching German and British contemporary fighters. Vichy forces employed D-520s defending Syria against British invasion and in North Africa. Germany took over remaining production with aircraft delivered to Bulgaria, Romania, and Italian forces. Free French units later operated captured D-520s following Allied liberation. Over 900 were built, many after French defeat. The Caudron C-445 Goéland served as a light transport continuing production under occupation. This twin-engine aircraft carried passengers or light cargo on short routes. Germany requisitioned many for Luftwaffe communication and liaison duties. The Goéland's civilian origins and unarmed configuration limited military utility, but transport needs kept production active. French factories built hundreds under German control throughout the occupation. The aircraft served with Luftwaffe transport units, Vichy forces, and later Free French squadrons. Its basic design allowed continued production with minimal German technical oversight.
The Morane-Saulnier MS-406 fighter had equipped French squadrons at war's outbreak. Following defeat, Germany captured hundreds and continued limited production. Most were exported to Axis allies or puppet states. Finland purchased many, modifying them extensively and achieving considerable success against Soviet aircraft. Croatia operated MS-406s during Balkans operations. Switzerland interned examples that had escaped from France. The aircraft's obsolescent design limited combat value, but desperate Axis allies accepted whatever fighters became available. Production ceased in 1942 as better alternatives emerged. French factories produced German aircraft types throughout the occupation. Arsenal de l'Aeronautica manufactured Junkers Ju-52 transports, while other facilities built components for Luftwaffe aircraft. The Gnome-Rhone factory produced BMW radial engines under license. Forced labor and French workers under duress maintained production despite Allied bombing and resistance sabotage. French industrial contribution to German war effort proved substantial until liberation. Allied advances in 1944 finally freed these facilities from German control. Polish-built aircraft. Poland's aircraft industry ceased functioning after September 1939's devastating defeat. German forces captured factories and equipment intact in many cases. The PZL works in Warsaw and other facilities suffered destruction during combat. Germany evaluated captured Polish designs, including the PZL-37 Wosch bomber and PZL-24 fighter. Limited interest in these designs prevented resumed production. Instead, German authorities dismantled useful equipment and machinery, shipping it to Reich facilities. Polish skilled workers were conscripted for German war production. No significant aircraft production occurred in occupied Poland. Dutch-built aircraft. The Fokker D-21 fighter served Dutch forces during the May 1940 invasion. Following occupation, Germany captured surviving aircraft and production facilities. Finland had purchased production rights before the war and continued building D-21s, using them effectively against Soviet forces. The captured Dutch examples were scrapped or used for training. Germany showed no interest in resuming production as the design had become obsolete. Fokker facilities were repurposed for component production and repair work, supporting Luftwaffe operations. Dutch aircraft industry effectively ceased independent existence under occupation. The Fokker G1 heavy fighter saw limited service during Holland's brief resistance. This twin-engined aircraft featured innovative design with heavy forward-firing armament. Germany captured several and evaluated them without finding sufficient merit for continued production. Most were scrapped, though a few served as trainers. The G1 represented promising Dutch aeronautical engineering that German occupation terminated. Fokker facilities transitioned to repair and maintenance work for German aircraft. Dutch workers maintained Luftwaffe aircraft throughout the occupation under German supervision. The Kohlhoven Fk-58 fighter existed only as prototypes when Germany invaded. This advanced single-engine design showed promise, but development ceased with occupation. Germany evaluated the prototypes and found nothing warranting production, given their existing fighter types. The aircraft was scrapped and Kohlhoven facilities repurposed.
Dutch aircraft development ended abruptly with conquest. Germany proved interested only in using existing facilities and workforce, rather than continuing Dutch designs. The FK-58 represented lost potential, destroyed by occupation.
Belgian-built aircraft. Belgium's Renard R-36 reconnaissance aircraft served briefly during the 1940 invasion. Following defeat, Germany captured examples and production facilities. No further production occurred as the design offered nothing Germany needed. Most captured aircraft were scrapped.
Belgian factories were repurposed for German production needs. The Stamp et Vertonghen SV.4 trainer continued limited production for training purposes. This biplane served flying schools under German control. Belgian facilities primarily shifted to component production and aircraft repair, supporting Luftwaffe operations throughout Western Europe.
Balkan aircraft production. Yugoslavia operated several indigenous aircraft types before the 1941 invasion. The Icarus IK-2 and Rogozhsky IK-3 fighters showed promise, but production ceased with German conquest. Captured examples were evaluated and scrapped. Yugoslav factories were repurposed for German needs or component production. Croatia, established puppet state, received some captured Yugoslav aircraft and continued limited production of training types. The Zimai Fizia FP2 trainer remained in production for Croatian forces. Yugoslav aircraft industry essentially ceased independent operation under occupation. Romania maintained indigenous aircraft production throughout the war as a German ally rather than occupied nation. The IAR-80 fighter served Romanian forces on the Eastern Front in significant numbers. This capable design featured modern construction and adequate performance. Romania produced over 300, operating them throughout the war. The IAR-81 dive bomber variant provided ground attack capability. Romanian industry contributed to Axis war effort through both indigenous designs and license production of German types. Production continued until Romania switched sides in 1944.
Italian aircraft production. Italy operated as Germany's ally until September 1943, when Armistice led to German occupation of northern Italy. Italian aircraft production continued under German control in occupied zones. The Fiat G55 Centauro represented Italy's best fighter design, entering production in 1943. Germany permitted continued production, with some aircraft serving Luftwaffe units and Italian Social Republic forces loyal to Mussolini. The Mach-E C-205 Veltro similarly remained in production under German supervision. These excellent fighters appeared too late in insufficient numbers to affect outcomes. The Savoia Marchetti SM-82 transport continued production in German-occupied Italy. This three-engine aircraft provided cargo capacity Germany valued. Production continued through 1943, with aircraft employed by both Luftwaffe and Italian Social Republic forces. The Fiat CR-42 biplane fighter remained in limited production for ground attack and night harassment roles. Its obsolescent design mattered less for specialized missions. Italian industry under German occupation contributed modestly to Axis aircraft production until Allied advances and strategic bombing crippled facilities. Aircraft repair and modification. Occupied territories provided extensive repair and overhaul facilities for German aircraft. French workshops repaired battle-damaged Luftwaffe aircraft throughout the occupation. Czech facilities overhauled engines and airframes. Dutch and Belgian workshops maintained German aircraft operating in Western Europe. This repair capacity proved as valuable as new production, returning damaged aircraft to service. Occupied facilities freed German factories for new production while maintaining operational aircraft strength. Allied bombing increasingly targeted these repair facilities, recognizing their contribution to Luftwaffe capability.
Modification programs adapted existing aircraft to new roles. French facilities modified German aircraft for specialized missions. Czech workshops fitted different equipment to standard types. These modifications reflected evolving tactical requirements and equipment availability. Occupied facilities possessed skilled workers capable of complex modification work. Germany exploited this expertise throughout the war, directing occupied industries towards supporting Luftwaffe operations. The modification and upgrade work represented significant contribution to German air power, often overlooked when focusing on new production.
Forced labor and resistance. Aircraft production in occupied Europe relied heavily on forced labor and conscripted workers. French, Czech, Polish, Dutch, Belgian, and other workers produced aircraft and components under German control. Conditions ranged from relatively normal factory work to brutal forced labor depending on location and German oversight. Resistance movements occasionally sabotaged production through work slowdowns, defective components, or outright destruction. Such resistance proved dangerous as German authorities executed saboteurs when caught. Production nonetheless continued throughout the war despite worker opposition and Allied bombing. The moral complexity of occupied workers producing German aircraft troubled many. Some worked willingly for wages under occupation government direction. Others faced threats, forcing cooperation. Resistance proved difficult when families faced retaliation for sabotage. Workers developed subtle methods for reducing production quality without obvious sabotage. Installing faulty components, causing machinery breakdowns, and work slowdowns all occurred. German supervision and quality control attempted preventing such resistance. The tension between forced cooperation and resistance characterized occupied industrial production throughout the conflict. Aircraft built in occupied Europe extended German industrial capacity significantly. Conquered nations contributed fighters, bombers, trainers, and transports, adding to Luftwaffe's strength. More importantly, occupied facilities provided repair, modification, and component production, freeing German factories for complex new designs. This industrial exploitation proved essential to sustaining German air operations throughout the war. Liberation gradually reclaimed these facilities for Allied use, while strategic bombing destroyed others. The aircraft built under occupation represent a hidden dimension of industrial warfare's moral and practical complexities.